Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. How does 30 years difference in the age of a tea tree change the experience in the cup? Well, that's what I'm going to be trying to find out today with this little game that I'm playing here. I have two Royal Peach Orchid or Milan Dansongs in front of me. One of them is our Royal Peach Orchid. It's immaculate, it's amazing. It comes from 65-year-old bushes, so old bushes anyway, and has been selected because we absolutely adore it. And the other one is from the same cultivar, from the same producer, but is from 95-year-old tea trees. So, I don't know which one's which. Celine has written down in this envelope, she said she's calling this one number 1 and this one number 2. So 1 and 2, let's quickly scope the teas, even though I don't know which one's which. Season on the Royal Peach is March 2023. The season on the older one is April 2023, 3rd of April. Older trees always grow slower, so there's going to be a slight time difference there. The cultivar on both of them is Milan. The origin is slightly different. The Royal Peach Orchid is from Da'an village. The old bush we're calling LAO Cong Milan. The LAO Cong Milan is from Zhongshin village. The picking and processing is going to be the same. The elevation of the Royal Peach is slightly lower. I think it's 750, 800 meters, and the LAO Cong Milan is about 900 meters. So there are differences in origin, and there are differences in the elevation. So this is not a perfect comparison, but I think it is still going to serve the purpose. Now, I don't know which one's which, so we're just going to call this one number 1 and number 2. Number 1 we're going to brew in the little dumpling, and number 2 we'll brew in the pear. And they're both beautiful Master Wu Chaozhou clay pots. So let's heat them up. You can see the leaf. So I'm going to start making guesses here, okay? But I don't want to sort of talk myself into something. You know how that is. You make a guess too early, and then your brain convinces you that you're right. So I don't want to do that. But from initial look, I would say that this leaf here looks a little bit thinner, a bit more, a bit more delicate. And that would say to me that it's more likely that this is the old bush, because older bushes tend to have thinner and finer pickings generally. It's the same in pu'er. If you look at raw pu'er, the gushus tend to have actually, it's a sort of counterintuitive because a lot of people think older means larger leaf. It's not the case. Oftentimes the leaf is actually smaller and the buds are more wiry and smaller generally, but that's a big generalization. Okay, let's warm them up. So as I said, I don't want to convince myself of something. So I'm just going to try to do this based on aroma and less on the looks. Aroma and taste, of course. Teapot? Yeah. Teapot. Do not cross the streams. Okay. Here we go. Number 1 goes in. And let's do it this way. Forgot my tools today. Could have done that a lot neater if I had tools. It's all right. And number 2 goes in. 5 grams of each, weighed up by Celine. And here we go. I know that they're both fabulous teas, so I'm in for a luxury tasting session. Here we go. Baked cookies, loads and loads of apricots, loads and loads of peaches, loads and loads of honey. Yeah, amazing. Also incredible. More, how to say this? A little bit more wild smelling. And it's a very difficult thing for me to explain. And I try with other videos, I've tried to do this, but there's a certain smell that comes from the stems of really ripe fruits. It might be vine-ripened tomatoes. It might be, black currants. It might be peaches. There's a certain slightly medicinal. It's like the terpene levels are different. The terpene quality is different. The terpene types are different. So it's giving me a little bit more of a wild smell to it. But again, baked cookies, lots of honey drizzled over hot griddled peaches. Both smell beautiful. Oh, there must be a leaf somewhere. There it is. That's how fine the margins are with Master Wu pots. Both smell beautiful, but again, I'm leaning on the smell towards this one. But again, don't want to jump too soon. So let's give this a rinse. The wet leaf is going to be much more revealing, I think. I hope. So, Dan Cong teas come from single trunk bushes or trees, sort of a hybrid between the Assamica in Yunnan, the full-on trees, and the bushes of the small leaf varieties up on the east of China. Like, imagine they meet in the middle in Guangdong, and you get this sort of medium. It is single trunk. Dan Cong means single bush, and slightly more tree-like than the counterparts further to the east and further up north. Number one. Again, like baked peaches drizzled with thyme honey, some baked oranges, salted caramel, a bit of butterscotch, but loads and loads of the bright fruits. Some thyme, some oregano, a bit of vinyl. I love Milan. It's such a classic cultivar for Dan Congs, but for good reason. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Deeper. And when I mean deeper, I mean genuinely deeper. It's like you take all of the flavors like that of this one here, and then you concentrate it and sort of make it more into a jam. It's just like, it's like cooked in. So same thing, peaches, magnolia, honey. Some of, trying to smell the difference. Yeah, this one is still really overflowing and bursting, but is a bit brighter. And this one, a bit more treacly. Touch of like sesame as well. They're both just as complex as each other, but that one's got a deeper quality to it, a more cooked in quality to it. All right, let's see what temperature we're at. We're only at 80, so let's heat those up. And so, yeah, the age of tea trees are always important. For every single tea that we buy, we always ask the producer for age, even for the green teas. And I think that in China, the age of bush is much more considered by just culturally than in other countries. And I don't think we have any tea in our catalogue which is going to be under 30-year-old. I mean, I can't say for sure, but they're at least going to be in the sort of 25s to 40s range. As I said, the raw peach orchid in front of me is 65 years and 95, so they're both old. Okay, so old is always better. I don't think that there's an exception to that rule, there may be. But generally old is always better. And the reason why I pinpoint China as being more focused on this is because it's a bigger country. And therefore, in Taiwan and in Japan, you've got a smaller footprint, and therefore they have to make yield count for more for the plot of land that they have. And so once a tea reaches a certain age, the yield that comes from that tea reduces quite dramatically. And therefore they're not getting as many, kilograms or tons of tea out every year. And if you have a small area of land, like in Taiwan, you have you've got premium tea growing land, you want to maximize the yield. And it hurts me a little bit, because whenever I go to Taiwan or Japan, I'm always imploring farmers to keep their old trees, because I see them ripping them up and replacing them. But I have to understand that they have to think about yield. But then, it does affect quality, and you can taste the difference that an old bush makes. Well, at least I'm hoping to prove that point here. So we're going to brew these up about 10 seconds in between, so I can brew them up at the same time. Definitely the smell on this pot here is wilder. It's got a wilder smell. Not necessarily better or worse, but wilder. Okay. We got our Jingzhezhen hand painted. You can see they are definitely different. So you can see these are all individually hand painted. All right, let's go. Tea number 1. Oh, did I misjudge this? Tea number 2. Oh, did I misjudge it? Come on, and stop. Okay, all right. I realize these are overfilled, but I didn't want to be messing around with Gandabes with a double session. There's something beautiful about the symmetry of these pots here. Okay, color of liquor. This one looks a bit lighter. I don't know if you can see that, but that looks a bit lighter, and they were brewed for there or thereabouts the same amount of time. All right, so excuse me, but I'm going to have to do a bit of rim slurping here. Oh, who can say no to a honey, peach, orchid taste? It is divine. That little bit of vinyl coming through, give it that edge. Also has like a orangey, clementine, donut peaches, so very sweet. Thyme, honey, oregano. Wonderful. Tea number 2. Yeah. Both incredible teas. It is a bit of a, it's a bit ridiculous to say one's better than the other, but there is a difference. This one, first of all, texturally, this one is thicker. Always Dan Congs are going to be in the medium range, but this one is thicker. But more than that, this one has a softer, more luxurious feel in the mouth. And you probably wouldn't, you would taste that and go, that's soft and luxury in the mouth and vaporous. It's only when you do them back to back that you can really discern the difference. This is medium thick. This is unusual for a Dan Cong, moving into thick territory, thick, supple, soft. The instant sweetness that comes at the end after you swallow is very, very apparent. Again, please let me state that this tea here, which I now am assuming is Royal Peach Orchid, is top of the line. But in tea, there is always something that you can add. Incremental, but noticeable. And usually the price difference for that increment is quite big. I haven't priced these up yet, but I'm going to guess that the price of this one is going to be substantially more than this one here. And we've only got, I think, 5 or 10 kilos of this because it's a very small batch for those old tea trees. Taste, as I said, baked oranges, donut peaches, oregano, thyme, honey, orchid. Everything you'd want. Not too roasted, not under roasted. Perfect level of roast. This one here has all of the same flavor notes, there or thereabouts, but again, more resinous, better way to describe it. So it's like you've taken all those terps and you've somehow captured them in some sort of resin. It almost has a frankincense quality to it as well, especially in the finish. Resinous, older tasting, more churchy, antique-y in its sort of resonated quality. Resonated, is that a word? I like it. Flowers are the same, maybe a bit more orange blossom in this one rather than magnolia. And then the finish is vaporous, soft, vaporous and sweet. The finish on this one is a little bit more quench, still nothing like those hard astringent dansongs that you can experience. A little bit more quench, moving to a honey sweet juiciness. Divine, gorgeous. But this one, the moment it hits your tongue, sweetness, and the finish, similar again, but just deeper. Like you've taken a medium honey versus a dark honey. We'll brew them up again, but I am relatively convinced. Also has a slight buttery quality, like a salted butter quality in the taste as well, which is probably more unusual for a Milan. Ooh, 2 heavyweight Milans, heating me up. It's a bit of a chilly day here in London, so hence the hoodie. But this is warming you up, good and proper. All right. There we go. Finish in my mouth on this one has a little bit of a tropical note like mangosteen as well. All right. Let's see visually, you can see that. Can you see visually? I know that this seems a bit odd for people, but they both look thick. But that one just looks a bit thicker. Yeah. Same tasting notes. Touch more minerality coming through in a lovely way. It's the most noticeable thing apart from the variations in taste. And some might say they prefer the more treacly resonated version of this one. I'm using that word now. Some people might find that they prefer the more fruit-forward nature, honey and fruit-forward nature of this one. So that's a sort of matter of preference. But I think it would be almost a universal that one, the number 2, would, that sweetness that it gives you instantly on your tongue, I think 99.9% of people would say that that's a better, or would prefer that. And with older trees, generally you have this thicker feel in the mouth, a sweeter finish in the mouth, and a longer finish in the mouth. That's the general. The taste itself, can you taste the age? Yes, you can. I've done a video about tasting LAO CONG black tea. go check it out in the description. There is a certain taste, and that taste is a little bit more resonated. Why is that? Why do older bushes have a different character? Lots of theories. One of the theories is slower growing in general. Less competition, it's well established, doesn't need to grow so fast. Slower growing trees tend to produce higher quality teas because they can just become richer as they grow slower. So you're getting more time for that leaf to be pumped full of nutrients and aromatics. Second reason is that the root system for an older tree is going to be more well established, potentially slightly deeper, potentially hitting areas of layers of soil that younger tea trees can't reach. Third theory, which I think is definitely true, is the memory of a tree, the memory of a plant. As a tree goes through its years, or any plant goes through its years, it experiences more things, just like a human being experiences drought, experiences pests, etc. And that forces the plant to produce secondary metabolites, different flavor compounds, to try to defend and attract and try to survive. And the older the tea tree is, the more of those memories and those chemicals exist in the actual plant itself. Another reason is the plant is continuously mutating. It's always going to have genetic mutations happening. And those genetic mutations will cause complexity. And the idea that the genetics of a plant stay fixed throughout your life is not true. They mutate, and they mutate in different areas of the plant. So different parts of the plant, different pickings of the same plant will have slightly different genetics. And so you have, with older trees, with older plants, you're going to have a little bit more genetic diversity, and that is usually going to create a little bit more complexity in flavor. So those are some of the reasons. There are probably others out there. Both gorgeous, gorgeous, pinnacle, high-end teas. As I said, whenever you go to tea country, you're always gonna think that is it. That's the absolute top notch. You can't get better than that. And then there's always but if you go 50 meters that way, there's another plant that happens to be by a waterfall that, there's always gonna be some step up, and that is going to be incremental in terms of quality, but usually not so incremental in terms of price. And it's always a decision you need to make. Is that difference really worth that big difference in price? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's a matter of taste. Always it's a matter of taste, but sometimes it's a matter of your taste at the particular time, whim, how you're feeling, etc., etc., etc. I think that the difference between these is very, very noticeable. I think that the taste profile difference is very, very noticeable. I'm not going to say that this one is better than that one, because I think that that's a matter of your taste, because I think that they're both delicious. But there's a thickness and an aftertaste sense in this one, and a wildness to this one, which clearly establishes it in my mind as the LAO Cong. I would be amazed if I'm wrong, and I would consider retiring. But you can do this yourself. You can do this experiment yourself if you wanted to. Yeah, number 1 is indeed Royal Peach, and number 2 is a LAO Cong Milan. So yes, you can tell a difference that 35 years makes. 35 years, okay, that's, a fair chunk of time. But in the world of tea, it's not a huge difference, right? 65 to 95. Oh, so it's only 30 years. So, it's not huge, but you can definitely taste it. That's the difference that old bushes make. That's it, tea heads. Check out other videos, taste our teas wherever you're on the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being part of the revelation of true tea. keep drinking. I've forgotten what I'm going to say. I got sidetracked by the old Bushes little joke in my head. Keep drinking the old, the beautiful, and the wild stuff, and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye. Old Bushes always taste better, mate.